This is the case of Kareem, a wealthy Dubai businessman, and his bride Amina, whose fairy tale wedding turned into a nightmare within hours. What began as a night of love and celebration ended in betrayal, violence, and a shocking murder that left an entire city stunned. As we uncover the secrets hidden behind the glamour, you'll see how one discovery on their wedding night destroyed everything. If you enjoy true crime stories like this, make sure to stay active on the channel, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next case we cover. Your support helps bring these stories to life and keeps this channel growing. The wedding had been planned with such precision that it felt like a scene out of a movie. Guests arrived at one of Dubai's most prestigious hotels, where marble floors reflected golden chandeliers and rose petals were scattered along the entrance. Every detail spoke of luxury. Expensive perfumes lingered in the air, soft music played in the background, and waiters carried trays of sparkling drinks as if the night itself was designed to impress. Kareem, the groom, was the kind of man many envied, successful in business, admired in social circles, and known for his generosity. To those who knew him, this wedding was not just another celebration, but a statement of status. Then there was Amina. She appeared almost ethereal, wearing a gown embroidered with crystals that shimmered under the light. Her beauty drew the eyes of everyone in the room. Friends of the family whispered about how quickly the couple had met and married, noting how little was known about her background. Yet the mystery only added to her allure. Guests toasted to the union, clinking glasses while murmuring about how love had found them so suddenly. For Kareem's family, the night was a proud moment, the perfect match for their son. The atmosphere was filled with laughter, dancing, and joy that stretched into the late hours. To the outside world, this was a flawless wedding, a fairy tale unfolding in one of the richest cities in the world. No one could have predicted that beneath the glittering lights and endless smiles, something darker was already at play. The bride carried with her a past she hoped to bury forever, while the groom celebrated a future that would never come. What began as the happiest night of their lives was, in truth, the countdown to tragedy. When the final guests had left and the music of the wedding faded into the night, Kareem and Amina stepped into a world that belonged only to them. A private car carried them through the glowing streets of Dubai to a penthouse suite reserved at one of the city's most exclusive hotels. The suite had been prepared with meticulous care. Fresh white roses filled crystal vases, the scent drifting gently through the air. A bottle of chilled champagne rested in a silver bucket beside a table lined with exotic fruits and delicate desserts. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed a skyline of glittering towers and the calm waters of the Gulf beyond. It was the kind of setting that seemed designed to mark the beginning of a lifetime together. For Kareem, the night was a triumph. He believed he had married the woman of his dreams, someone who would stand by his side through the years ahead. Everything about the moment felt perfect, the luxury surrounding them, the promise of a shared future, and the excitement of a new chapter in his life. He carried with him the pride of having found a bride whose elegance and charm impressed everyone she met. To him, their life together had just begun in the most extraordinary way. Amina, however, carried more than the glow of celebration. Behind her smile and graceful presence was a weight she had worked hard to conceal. The setting was beautiful, yet she could not shake the fear that her carefully guarded past might one day surface. Still, she pushed the thought aside and leaned into the illusion of happiness, determined to make this new life work. In the silence of the hotel suite, two people stood at the edge of vastly different realities, unaware of the storm about to unfold. As the night settled deeper into quiet, Kareem wandered through the suite, still buzzing from the excitement of the wedding. He opened gifts stacked neatly in the corner, admired the view of the glittering skyline, and finally turned to unpack a few of their belongings. That was when his attention fell on a small leather travel bag that Amina had guarded closely throughout the day. It seemed ordinary at first glance, but tucked inside was a metal case, slim and locked, out of place among the silk gowns and jewelry. Something about its secrecy stirred suspicion. Kareem's curiosity, sharpened by the slight unease he felt toward his new bride's mysterious past, grew too strong to resist. The lock was delicate, and it didn't take long for him to force it open. Inside, instead of the expected trinkets or personal keepsakes, he found neatly folded documents. His eyes moved across names, dates, and records that did not belong to the woman he thought he had married. The papers revealed passports under different identities, evidence of bank accounts in foreign countries, and photographs that showed Amina in places and situations she had never mentioned. The discovery landed like a heavy stone in his chest. The woman he had introduced to his family as the perfect bride was someone entirely different. The elegant smile, the soft words, the picture of innocence she had painted, all of it seemed shattered by the proof in front of him. What began as curiosity turned quickly into disbelief and anger. Every laugh she had shared, every word of affection she had spoken, now felt like part of a performance. The dreamlike wedding night had turned into a moment of revelation, and the man who believed he had everything suddenly realized he had married a stranger. Years before she set foot in Dubai, Amina lived a life far removed from the image she carefully presented at her wedding. In her early 20s, she had been swept into a world of wealth and danger, tied to men who built their fortunes through schemes that blurred the line between business and crime. At first, she was only a bystander, a woman enjoying the luxuries that came with powerful connections. But over time, her involvement deepened. She learned how money could vanish through offshore accounts, how identities could be rewritten with forged documents, and how loyalty in that circle was bought, not earned. When one of the networks she was connected to collapsed after a police raid in Europe, Amina knew her time there was over. Associates were arrested, and whispers of betrayal filled the air. Those who escaped the law were marked by enemies seeking revenge. Amina had more to lose than most. Her face was recognizable, and her name was already tied to financial fraud that authorities were piecing together. Disappearing was no longer a choice, it was a necessity. She sold what she could, gathered what money was left, and vanished under a new identity. Dubai became her haven, a city where wealth and glamour could mask unanswered questions about the past. She reinvented herself, adopting the role of a polished, graceful woman whose mysterious background only added to her charm. But even as she built this new life, she could not erase the memory of what she had fled. Every introduction, every relationship carried the silent fear that someone might discover who she truly was. On her wedding night, that fear finally became reality, and the past she thought buried began clawing its way back into the present. The atmosphere inside the suite shifted the moment Kareem confronted the truth he had uncovered. The papers lay scattered across the bed, the evidence too clear to ignore. What had been a night of celebration turned into a storm of disbelief and fury. To Kareem, it was not only about secrets but about the humiliation of realizing that everything he had shown proudly to his family was built on lies. His reputation, his pride, and his trust all felt shattered in a single instant. The woman he believed to be pure and honest had deceived him with a carefully constructed mask. The betrayal cut deeper because it came from someone he had chosen to share his future with. Amina stood trapped in the golden cage of the suite, knowing there was no way to explain what Kareem had found. Her silence only fueled his anger. In his eyes, every gesture she had made during their romance became tainted. The laughter they shared, the promises she whispered, all of it replayed in his mind as calculated moves from a woman desperate to escape a dark past. The thought of being played on such a grand scale was unbearable for a man whose pride had always been his armor. The confrontation escalated quickly, the luxurious surroundings contrasting with the tension that thickened the air. Expensive roses now felt suffocating, the flickering candles casting long shadows that seemed to echo the turmoil between them. What was meant to be a sanctuary of love transformed into a battlefield of rage and fear. Kareem's voice rose, his anger boiling over as the weight of betrayal overwhelmed him. Amina, caught between shame and terror, realized too late that the man who once adored her now saw her only as the source of his deepest humiliation. The violence that followed was sudden, but it was the product of hours of tension compressed into a single, uncontrollable moment. The room that had been designed to celebrate love became a cage filled with rage. Kareem, overcome with a sense of betrayal, allowed anger to consume reason. In his mind, the carefully built life he had imagined collapsed in seconds, leaving nothing but bitterness and humiliation. The thought of facing his family, his friends, and his community with the truth about who Amina really was filled him with shame so sharp it felt unbearable. In that state, rage became his only outlet. Amina, trapped in a nightmare of her own making, tried to hold her composure. She had faced danger before, but this was different. There was no chance to flee, no opportunity to escape behind another false name. The truth lay bare in front of the man who had the power to destroy her new life. The weight of her past pressed down harder than ever as she saw the fury in his eyes. For the first time, she realized there would be no forgiveness, no second chance, only judgment. In the heat of the confrontation, words were lost, and only actions remained. The luxury of the suite, the roses, the golden light, the champagne, stood as a cruel contrast to the violence that erupted. Within minutes, Amina's carefully constructed new identity, her dreams of stability, and the hope of a future all ended on the very night meant to mark her beginning. Kareem's anger left her lifeless, and the silence that followed was heavier than any music or laughter heard earlier. What should have been the most memorable night of their lives turned into the irreversible moment that bound them forever in tragedy. The morning sun rose over Dubai, casting a golden glow across the city, but inside the hotel suite, the scene was one of devastation. Hours earlier, the room had been a sanctuary of celebration. Now it was a sealed crime scene, its air heavy with the scent of roses mixed with something darker. When hotel staff knocked on the door for morning service and received no response, they grew uneasy. Eventually, security was called, and what they found inside shocked them to their core. The bride, once radiant in white, now lay lifeless, and the luxury that surrounded her only made the sight more haunting. News traveled fast. Within hours, whispers spread from the hotel staff to the city beyond, and soon the story exploded into headlines. A wedding that had dazzled guests the night before had ended in murder. The image of Kareem and Amina smiling under chandeliers was replaced by the grim reality of betrayal and violence. Reporters circled the hotel, cameras capturing every angle, while police cordoned off the suite to gather evidence. What shocked the public even more was the absence of Kareem. The groom, the man who had been the center of admiration and pride, had vanished without a trace. His disappearance only deepened the mystery, leaving people to wonder whether he was consumed by guilt or determined to escape justice. Families who had danced at the reception now sat in silence, replaying every moment, searching for signs of trouble they had missed. The city that had witnessed countless grand weddings before had never seen one unravel so swiftly and tragically. By the time investigators released their first statements, the perfect image of the couple had already crumbled into a story of secrets, betrayal, and a brutal crime that stunned everyone who heard it. As the investigation deepened, the picture of Amina's hidden life grew more complex. Detectives pieced together fragments of her past from the documents left in the suite and from international records that were quietly requested. It became clear she had lived under several identities across Europe, slipping in and out of high circles where money flowed easily and laws were often bent. She was not only escaping old crimes but also people who wanted her silenced. Rumors spread that she had stolen millions from those very networks before disappearing, leaving behind enemies powerful enough to chase her across continents. For Kareem, the truth was more tangled than he could have imagined. What began as anger at personal betrayal turned out to be part of something much larger. Some investigators believed he killed her out of pride and rage, unwilling to face humiliation. Others suspected a darker possibility, that Kareem, after discovering the extent of her secrets, feared being dragged into a web of crime that could consume him. His disappearance fueled endless theories. When he was eventually tracked down attempting to flee the country, his arrest brought temporary relief, but it did not answer the haunting questions left behind. Even with Kareem in custody, much about Amina's life remained a mystery. Who exactly had she been running from? How much money had she taken, and where was it hidden? Could her murder have been avoided if her secrets had stayed buried? The tragedy of the wedding night became more than a story of love gone wrong. It was a tale of deception, greed, and the fatal cost of living a double life. Long after the headlines faded, people continued to wonder whether the bride's past or the groom's pride had truly sealed her fate.